My daughter Tamika's wedding had been perfect until that moment. Until my new son-in-law Darius grabbed my wrist so hard I felt my bones grind together. "I said give me the keys, old woman." His voice cut through the sudden quiet like a blade. The DJ had stopped the music mid-song. "The ranch is mine now. That was the deal." I looked past him to my daughter, resplendent in her white gown, her face frozen in an expression I couldn't quite read. Was that fear? Embarrassment? Or had she known this was coming? "Darius, baby, not here," Tamika whispered, touching his arm. "We talked about doing this tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" He shook her off. "I'm not waiting another day. Your mom has been playing games for months, acting like she's going to hand over what's rightfully ours. Well, I'm done playing." He turned back to me, his face twisted with contempt. "You're 72 years old, Geneva. You can't run that place anymore. It's time to let go." "I'm 68, actually," but I didn't correct him. My late husband Clarence and I had worked that ranch for 43 years, or so everyone believed. The 500 acres of prime Texas hill country had been in what folks assumed was the family since 1982. Clarence used to joke that we'd die with dirt under our fingernails and pride in our hearts. He got his wish about the dirt. The pride, though, that was being tested right now. "The keys are in my purse," I said quietly, trying to de-escalate. "But Darius, we need to talk about this privately. There are things you don't understand." The slap came so fast I didn't see it coming. One moment I was standing. The next my cheek was on fire and my vision went white at the edges. I heard gasps, screams, someone's grandmother shouting, "Lord have mercy!" I stumbled backward into my brother Leonard, who caught me before I fell. "You don't tell me what I need to understand!" Darius was shouting now, his finger in my face. "I've been listening to you make excuses for 6 months. Wait until after the wedding, Darius." "We need to go through the paperwork, Darius." "It's complicated, Darius." "Well, you know what? I'm done waiting." He snatched my purse from where it hung on my chair and dumped the contents on the table. My phone, my wallet, my church program, my reading glasses, everything scattered across the white tablecloth. He grabbed the key ring and held it up like a trophy. "These the keys to my ranch now," he announced to the stunned crowd. "Y'all can bear witness. Geneva Hartwell just transferred her property to her daughter and son-in-law on this blessed day." That's when I saw my grandson Caleb, Tamika's boy from her first marriage, pushing through the crowd. He was only 16, but he was already 6'3" and played linebacker for his high school team. His face was furious. "You put your hands on my grandmother?" His voice shook with rage. "Caleb, no!" I called out, finding my voice. The last thing I needed was my grandson catching an assault charge at his mama's wedding. "Baby, I'm okay. I'm okay." Pastor Williams from First Baptist was already making his way toward us, his face grave. My best friend Odetta was right behind him, her expression murderous. I could see people pulling out their phones, recording. This was going to be all over social media before the night was over. Darius ignored everyone, too caught up in his victory. "Come on, Tamika. We're leaving. Going to go see our new property." He grabbed my daughter's hand, but she pulled away. "Darius, you hit my mama." Her voice was small, shocked. "You said you just wanted to talk to her about the transition. You promised me. Your mama's been stringing us along." He whirled on her. "She's been living in that big house, running that ranch, acting like she's doing us a favor by considering signing it over. Well, I'm a man, Tamika. I don't beg, and I don't wait around while some stubborn old lady plays power games." Before we continue, if this story resonates with you, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss our next story. That's when something inside me clicked into place. Maybe it was the throbbing in my cheek. Maybe it was seeing my daughter's face crumble. Maybe it was watching my grandson's hands curl into fists. Or maybe it was just that after 43 years of keeping a secret, I was tired. Those keys won't do you any good. I said clearly. Darius turned back to me. What? I said those keys won't do you any good. I straightened my dress, smoothed my hair, and looked him dead in the eye. Because I don't own the ranch, Darius. I never did. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the caterers had stopped moving in the kitchen. What are you talking about? Tamika's voice was barely a whisper. The ranch belongs to Redwood Capital Partners, I said. It's a private investment consortium based out of Dallas. Has been since 1982. Your father and I were hired as property managers. When Clarence passed, they kept me on. I manage the ranch, I run the operations, I live in the house as part of my compensation package, but I don't own a single acre. I watched the color drain from Darius's face. You're lying. I'm not. I reached down to pick up my phone from where it had fallen. And right now, I need to make a phone call, because you just assaulted an employee of Redwood Capital Partners, on camera, in front of 200 witnesses, and I'm fairly certain my employers are going to have some thoughts about that. Mama, what are you saying? Tamika's eyes were wide, disbelieving. Daddy always said the ranch was ours. He said, Your daddy said what we needed him to say to keep you safe. I looked at my daughter, and my heart broke a little. Baby, I wanted to tell you so many times, but the contract was clear. Complete discretion. No one could know who really owned the property. This is insane, Darius sputtered. You're making this up. You're trying to... Call them. I held out my phone. The number's right there. Redwood Capital Partners, Dallas office, extension 4427. That's my direct line to the property oversight manager. His name is Vincent Chen. I paused, watching Darius's face. Actually, don't bother. I'll call him myself. Because you know what? I'm required to report any incidents that might affect the property or my ability to perform my duties. And I'm pretty sure getting assaulted at my daughter's wedding qualifies. Geneva, wait, Pastor Williams started, but I held up my hand. No, Pastor. This has gone too far. I looked around at all the faces staring at me, some shocked, some confused, some starting to look gleeful at the drama. Y'all wanted a show? Here it is. I dialed the number. It rang twice. Vincent Chen. Mr. Chen, this is Geneva Hartwell at the Texas property. My voice was steady despite the trembling in my hands. I'm sorry to call on a Saturday evening, but I need to report an incident. Ms. Hartwell, are you all right? You sound... I'm at my daughter's wedding reception. Her new husband just demanded I turn over the keys to the property. When I tried to explain the situation privately, he assaulted me in front of approximately 200 witnesses. The incident was recorded on multiple phones. The silence on the other end lasted exactly 3 seconds. He hit you? Yes, sir. Slapped me across the face, then forcibly took the property keys from my purse. Where is he now? I looked at Darius, who was standing frozen, the keys still clutched in his hand, finally beginning to understand that something had gone very, very wrong with his plan. He's right here, Mr. Chen, still holding the keys. Ms. Hartwell, I need you to put me on speaker. I did. Vincent Chen's voice filled the sudden silence of the reception hall, crisp and businesslike and completely devoid of warmth. This is Vincent Chen, Senior Property Manager for Redwood Capital Partners. I'm speaking to approximately 200 witnesses at a wedding reception in... He paused. Ms. Hartwell, what venue? The Grand Hall at Riverside Ranch, Austin. Thank you. To whom it may concern, Geneva Hartwell is an employee of Redwood Capital Partners. She manages our Texas property under a contracted arrangement that has been in place since 1982. She does not own the property. She cannot transfer the property. Any attempt to take possession of or access the property without proper authorization from Redwood Capital Partners constitutes trespassing and theft. He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was ice. Furthermore, I'm being informed that an individual physically assaulted Ms. Hartwell and took keys to our property by force. Ms. Hartwell, I need the name of the individual who assaulted you. Darius Wellington, I said quietly. My son-in-law, as of about 2 hours ago. Mr. Wellington, this is a formal notice. You are in possession of stolen property. Those keys belong to Redwood Capital Partners. You have assaulted our employee, and based on what Ms. Dietzi Hartwell has told me, you did so with the apparent intent to illegally take possession of a multi-million-dollar property. I watched Darius's face go from red to white to gray. We will be pursuing this matter to the fullest extent of the law, Vincent continued. Expect to hear from our legal team on Monday morning. Ms. Hartwell, I'm sending a security team to your location. They should arrive within the hour. Do you need medical attention? No, sir. My cheek is sore, but go to the emergency room anyway. Tonight, get checked out and documented. The company will cover all expenses. Do you feel safe remaining at this location? I looked around at my community, my church family, my neighbors, my friends of 40 years. I saw Odetta's fierce protective glare. I saw Pastor Williams's steady presence. I saw my brother Leonard, who hadn't let go of my shoulder since catching me. Yes, sir. I'm safe. Good. We'll be in touch tomorrow. In the meantime, Mr. Wellington, Vincent's voice hardened even further. If you attempt to go anywhere near that property, you will be arrested for trespassing. I suggest you find yourself a very good lawyer. And I suggest you return those keys to Ms. Hartwell immediately. The line went dead. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Darius's hand opened, and the keys fell to the floor with a metallic clatter that sounded like a judge's gavel. My daughter stood in her beautiful white dress, tears streaming down her face, looking between her new husband and her mother like her whole world had just shattered. Because it had. And the night, I realized, was only just beginning. The grand hall erupted into chaos the moment Vincent Chen hung up. Voices overlapped, some defending me, some demanding explanations, some just wanting to know what was happening. I stood in the center of it all, my cheek still throbbing, watching my daughter sink into a chair like her legs couldn't hold her anymore. Tamika. Darius reached for her, but she flinched away from him. Don't touch me. Her voice was hollow. You hit my mother. You promised me you were just going to talk to her. You looked me in my eyes and promised. Baby, I didn't mean to. He glanced around at all the phones still recording. This isn't what it looks like. 200 people just watched you slap my mama at our wedding reception. Tamika's voice cracked. What exactly doesn't it look like? My brother Leonard squeezed my shoulder. Geneva. Let me take you to the hospital like that man said. Get you checked out. Not yet. I needed to see this through. Needed to understand how my daughter had gotten tangled up with a man who thought violence was acceptable. Tamika, baby, look at me. She raised her tear-stained face, and I saw the little girl who used to help me feed the chickens, who'd learned to ride horses before she could read, who'd cried when her daddy died and sworn she'd make him proud. How long has Darius been talking to you about the ranch? I asked gently. She wiped her eyes, smearing mascara across her cheeks. Since we started dating, 2 years ago, he said. She stopped, looked at Darius, then back at me. He said he'd done research, that the ranch was worth at least $12 million, that you were getting old and needed to think about your legacy. That it wasn't fair for you to keep holding on to it when you could barely manage it anymore. Barely manage it? I felt Leonard stiffen beside me. Baby, the ranch has been profitable every single quarter for the last 43 years. We just closed a contract with Whole Foods for our organic beef program last month. That's not what Darius said. He told me you were behind on the mortgage, that you were too proud to ask for help, that if we didn't step in soon, you'd lose everything Daddy worked for. I closed my eyes. The manipulation had been even deeper than I'd thought. There is no mortgage, Tamika. The property is owned outright by Redwood Capital Partners. There never has been a mortgage, not since 1982. But Daddy always talked about the ranch like it was ours, like it was our legacy. It was our legacy, baby. just not the way you thought." I looked around at all the faces watching us, some sympathetic, some hungry for drama, some just confused. "Maybe we should take this somewhere private." "No." Darius's voice was sharp. He'd found his footing again, and I recognized the look on his face. Cornered animals either flee or attack. He was choosing attack. "You don't get to control the narrative anymore, Geneva. You've been lying to your family for over 40 years. You let Tamika believe she was inheriting a ranch, let her plan her future around that, and now you're trying to say it was all for her own good?" "Darius." Pastor Williams stepped forward, his voice firm. "Son, I think you need to take a breath and think very carefully about what you say next." "Why? Because you're all going to protect her?" Darius laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Look at you all, closing ranks around Geneva Hartwell, the saint of Austin. Well, let me tell you what kind of saint she is. She's the kind who lies to her own daughter for decades, who lets her child believe she's going to inherit millions when really she's just hired help, who probably pocketed money that should have gone to Tamika after Clarence died. Before we continue, please drop a comment if you've ever experienced something like this. We'd love to hear your story, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow." "That's enough." My grandson Caleb moved like lightning, getting right in Darius's face. "You don't talk about my grandmother like that. You already put your hands on her once. You want to try it again?" "Caleb, baby, no." I put myself between them, my hand on my grandson's chest. I could feel his heart hammering with rage. "He's not worth it, you hear me? He is not worth throwing away your future." "Listen to your grandma, boy." Darius's sneer was ugly. "Though I guess she's really just an employee, isn't she? Probably not even your real blood if she's been lying about everything else." The sound of Tamika's hand connecting with Darius's face echoed through the hall. My daughter stood there, her chest heaving, her hand still raised. "Get out," she said quietly. "Get out of my wedding. Get out of this hall. And when I get home tonight, you better have your things packed and be gone from my apartment." "Tamika, you hit my mother." The scream came from somewhere deep inside her. "At our wedding, in front of everyone. You lied to me, you manipulated me, you used me to try to steal from her Taishi. And you hit her!" "I didn't lie about the ranch being worth millions." "But it's not hers to give." Tamika's voice broke. "And even if it was, even if she was lying about everything else, that doesn't give you the right to put your hands on her. What kind of man—" She couldn't finish. The sobs took over. I pulled my daughter into my arms, this beautiful girl in her beautiful dress, and felt her shake apart against my chest. Over her shoulder, I watched Darius's face cycle through emotions: anger, calculation, fear, and finally something that looked like understanding. He was realizing, perhaps for the first time, that his plan hadn't just failed. It had destroyed everything. "Fine." He straightened his suit jacket. "I'll go. But this isn't over, Geneva. You think your mysterious company is going to protect you? I've got lawyers, too. And I've got 200 witnesses who just heard you admit you've been lying about property ownership for 40 years. Pretty sure that's fraud." "Actually," said a new voice from the doorway, "it's called a non-disclosure agreement." Everyone turned. A tall black woman in an expensive navy suit stood at the entrance, flanked by 2 security guards. She looked like she'd just stepped out of a corporate boardroom, her locks swept up in an elegant knot, her expression all business. "My name is Adrienne Rousseau. I'm general counsel for Redwood Capital Partners." She walked into the hall with the confidence of someone who owned every room she entered. "Mr. Chen called me 15 minutes ago. I was at dinner 3 blocks away, so I came immediately." Her eyes swept the room, cataloging everything, before landing on me. "Ms. Hartwell, I'm so sorry this happened to you." "Thank you, ma'am." She turned to Darius. "Mr. Wellington, I presume?" He straightened, trying to regain some dignity. "That's right, and like I was just saying, I've got lawyers." "I'm sure you do. You're going to need them." Adrian pulled out her phone and tapped the screen. "I've already filed a police report for assault and attempted theft. Officers should be here shortly to take statements. I've also filed for an immediate restraining order preventing you from coming within 500 feet of Ms. Hartwell or the property. That should be granted by Monday morning." "You can't do that." "Actually, I can. Texas law allows companies to seek protective orders on behalf of employees who've been threatened or harmed in connection with their employment." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I've done this before, Mr. Wellington. Several times, unfortunately. People get strange ideas when they find out about the properties we own." "What do you mean, the properties?" I asked. In 43 years, I'd never met anyone from Redwood except Vincent Chen, and those meetings were always by phone or video call. Adrian turned to me, and her expression softened. "Ms. Hartwell, Redwood Capital Partners owns 17 properties across the United States. Working ranches, farms, vineyards, timberland. We employ property managers like yourself, people who know the land, who care about it, who run it like it's their own. We value our managers immensely. Your property, specifically, has been one of our most successful operations for over 4 decades." "But why?" Tamika had pulled away from me, wiping her face. "Why would a company own a ranch and pretend they don't?" "We don't pretend anything, Ms. Wellington." Adrian's voice was patient but firm. "We simply maintain privacy. Redwood Capital Partners is funded by a group of investors who prefer discretion. When your parents were hired in 1982, the arrangement was clearly explained. They would manage the property, receive competitive compensation, housing, and benefits. In exchange, they would maintain the confidentiality of the ownership structure. They agreed to those terms." "My husband and I were grateful for those terms," I said quietly. "In 1982, Clarence and I were 39 years old with a 6-year-old daughter. We'd been trying to buy a small farm of our own for years, but banks weren't exactly eager to give loans to young black couples back then. When Redwood offered us the position, a beautiful ranch, a good salary, a home, health insurance, retirement benefits, it felt like a miracle." "But you let me believe," Tamika started. "I let you believe your daddy and I built something real," I interrupted gently. "And we did, baby. Maybe we didn't own the land, but we built a life there. We built a reputation. We built relationships with other ranchers, with our suppliers, with our community. We raised you there. Those things were real." "But you lied. We protected you," I said firmly. "Do you know what would have happened if people knew we didn't own that ranch? If they knew there was some wealthy company behind it? We would have been treated different. People would have assumed we were just hired hands, that we didn't have any stake in the success. Some folks would have tried to go around us, to find out who the real owners were, to make deals directly with them. Our authority would have been undermined. And yes, baby, some people might have tried exactly what Darius just did, scheme their way into what they thought was a multi-million-dollar property." The truth of that hit Tamika visibly. She looked at Darius, really looked at him, maybe for the first time. "You never loved me," she whispered. "This whole time you were just—" "Baby, no, that's not—" Darius reached for her again. "Don't." She stepped back. "Don't you dare. I was a mark to you, a way to get to what you thought was millions of dollars. How long were you planning this? From the very first date? Was anything real?" He didn't answer, and that was answer enough. The police arrived then. 2 officers pushing through the crowd that had gathered at the doorway. More phones were recording. This wedding was going to be talked about for years. "I need to speak with Geneva Hartwell," the older officer said. "That's me." "Ma'am, we got a call about an assault." Before I could answer, at least 20 people started talking at once, everyone eager to give their version. The officer held up his hand. "One at a time, please." He looked at Adrian. "Are you the one who called it in?" "I filed the formal report, yes. I'm legal counsel for Ms. Hartwell's employer. But the assault occurred before I arrived. There are, as you can see, Plenty of witnesses. And video? Someone called out. I got the whole thing. Me too. I got it from 3 angles. The officer sighed the sigh of someone who knew this was going to be a very long night. All right, let's start from the beginning. It took 2 hours. 2 hours of statements and videos and explanations. 2 hours of watching Darius's story change from she was playing games with our family inheritance to it was a misunderstanding to finally I want my lawyer. 2 hours of my daughter sitting silently in her wedding dress, staring at nothing, while her brand new marriage crumbled around her. The officers finally told Darius he was free to go, for now, but that charges would likely be filed once the district attorney reviewed the evidence. Adrian's restraining order request was noted. He was warned, in no uncertain terms, to stay away from me and the ranch. He left without looking back at Tamika, just walked out of the grand hall and out of her life, leaving her sitting there in thousands of dollars worth of white silk and broken dreams. When the police were done with me, Odetta appeared at my elbow with an ice pack. For your face, honey, you're swelling up. I took it gratefully. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I'm about to fuss at you for not telling me the truth in 40 years. Odetta. Later. She patted my hand. Right now, we need to get you to the ER like that man said. Get you documented. I'll take her, Leonard said. Come on, sis. Mama, Tamika's voice was small. Can I come with you? I looked at my daughter, my only child, my baby girl, sitting in her ruined wedding dress with mascara stains on her cheeks and devastation in her eyes. Of course, baby. Of course you can. We were halfway to Leonard's car when my phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. Ms. Hartwell, this is Adrienne Rousseau. I know tonight has been traumatic, but I need to inform you that Mr. Chen and I have been discussing the situation. Given the very public nature of tonight's events, Redwood Capital Partners is going to need to make some decisions about how to proceed. We'd like to meet with you tomorrow afternoon, if possible. There are some things about your employment contract that we need to discuss. Please call me at this number at your earliest convenience. My hand tightened on the phone. Geneva? Leonard must have seen my face. What is it? I looked at the message again, at those careful, professional words that could mean anything, or could mean everything. After 43 years of faithful service, after building a life on that ranch, after protecting their privacy and their interests through every challenge, were they about to fire me? The night was about to get even longer. The emergency room doctor confirmed what I already knew. My cheek was badly bruised, but nothing was broken. They took photographs for documentation, gave me pain medication I probably wouldn't take, and sent me home with instructions to ice it regularly. It was nearly midnight when Leonard pulled into my driveway. The ranch house was dark except for the porch light, exactly as I'd left it 6 hours ago when I'd been excited about my daughter's wedding. It felt like 6 years had passed. You want me to stay? Leonard asked. I can sleep on the couch. No, I'm all right. The security company sent someone. See? I pointed to the unfamiliar truck parked near the barn. They'll be here until Monday, apparently. Tamika had been silent the entire drive, still in her wedding dress, staring out the window. Now she spoke for the first time since leaving the hospital. Can I stay with you tonight, Mama? I can't go back to that apartment. Baby, you don't even have to ask. This is your home. Always has been. Always will be. We walked into the house together, and I made us both chamomile tea while Tamika changed into old clothes she'd left in her childhood bedroom. When she came back down, she was wearing a faded Howard University t-shirt and sweatpants, her hair wrapped, her face scrubbed clean. She looked 16 again. We sat at the kitchen table, the same one where we'd eaten thousands of meals, where Clarence had helped her with homework, where I'd taught her to knead bread dough and snap green beans. The same table where, apparently, I should have told her the truth years ago. I'm sorry, Mama. Her voice cracked. I'm so sorry. I brought that man into your life. I believed his lies. I should have known. Stop. I reached across and took her hand. You got no reason to apologize. He fooled you. That's what con men do, baby. They're good at it. But I should have seen it. When he started talking about the ranch so much, asking so many questions about the property value and the deed and... She wiped her eyes. I thought he was just interested in my family, in my history. I thought he cared. He probably did care at first, then greed got hold of him. I squeezed her hand. That's not your fault. Why didn't you tell me the truth? About Redwood? About the real ownership? I'm 32 years old, Mama. You didn't trust me? I'd been dreading this question all night. It wasn't about trust, baby. It was about protection. When your daddy and I signed that contract, we agreed to complete confidentiality. They made it real clear. We tell nobody. Not family, not friends, nobody. If we violated that agreement, we'd lose everything. The job, the house, our income. We had a 6-year-old daughter. We couldn't risk it. But after Daddy died, you could have told me then. I was 25, grown, and dealing with losing your father, I said softly. You were grieving, trying to finish your master's degree, starting your career. How was I supposed to tell you that everything you believed about your childhood home was a lie? That your daddy hadn't built this ranch up from nothing like we'd always said? But he did build it up, Tamika protested. You both did. That lawyer lady said it was one of their most successful properties. We were good at our jobs, yes. But we didn't own it, Tamika. And there's a difference. A big one. I sighed. Your daddy struggled with it sometimes. He'd worked so hard, been so successful, and he couldn't tell anybody the truth. Couldn't brag to his friends that he'd turned the ranch's profit margins around. Couldn't take full credit for the innovations we implemented. Everything had to be credited to the Hartwell family ranch like we were legacy landowners. That must have been hard for him. It was. But he made his peace with it. He used to say, Geneva, pride is expensive. I'd rather have financial security for my family than bragging rights at the feed store. I smiled at the memory. Your daddy was a practical man. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, sipping our tea. Mama, what did that text message say? In the parking lot, you looked scared. I'd forgotten Tamika had seen my face when I'd read Adrienne's message. They want to meet tomorrow, Sunday afternoon, to discuss my employment contract. You think they're going to fire you? I don't know, baby. I broke the confidentiality agreement tonight. Told 200 people about the real ownership. They might consider that grounds for termination. But you had to. Darius was trying to steal from them. I know, but contracts are contracts. I finished my tea. We'll find out tomorrow, I guess. Tamika was quiet for a long moment. Then, Mama, if they do fire you, where will you go? This house, the ranch, it's been your whole life. Then I'll start a new life. I surprised myself with how calm I sounded. I'm 68 years old, not dead. I've got skills, experience, references. I've got my brother, my friends, my church family. I've got you and Caleb. I'll be fine. Before we continue, please comment below, as I'd love to hear your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel to help us hit that big 1,000 subscriber milestone. But lying in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, I wasn't so sure. This ranch had been my entire adult life. Every fence I'd mended, every calf I'd helped birth, every drought I'd managed through, all of it had been on borrowed land. And now, because I'd finally told the truth, I might lose it all. I must have finally fallen asleep around 3, because the next thing I knew, sunlight was streaming through my windows and my phone was ringing. Ms. Hartwell? It's Adrienne Rousseau. I hope I didn't wake you. No, I'm up. I sat up, wincing at the soreness in my cheek. What time is it? 9:30. I apologize for calling on a Sunday morning, but I wanted to catch you before church. The meeting we discussed, would 1 o'clock work for you? We can come to you if that's easier. Here? At the ranch? If you're comfortable with that. There are some people who'd like to meet you in person. My stomach dropped. This was it. They were going to fire me face to face and probably wanted to inspect the property before reassigning it to a new manager. 1 o'clock is fine, I heard myself say. Should I prepare anything? Just yourself, Ms. Hartwell. And if your daughter would like to be present, she's welcome. After we hung up, I sat on the edge of my bed for a long moment. Then I got up, got dressed, and went downstairs to make breakfast. If this was going to be my last day as manager of this ranch, I was going to face it with dignity. Tamika came down around 10, looking exhausted. Did I hear you on the phone? Meeting's at 1, here at the house. I flipped pancakes. They said you could be there if you want. Of course I'm going to be there. She sat at the table. Mama, I've been thinking. If they fire you, we'll get you a lawyer. We'll fight it. You were defending yourself and their property. Baby, I appreciate that. But if they want to let me go... That's their right. I broke the confidentiality clause. Doesn't matter why. That's not fair. Fair's got nothing to do with it. It's business. I set a plate of pancakes in front of her. Eat. You need your strength. At 12:30, a caravan of vehicles pulled up the long driveway. 3 black SUVs, moving slow and deliberate. Tamika and I watched from the porch as they parked near the house. Adrienne Rousseau emerged from the first vehicle, still in professional attire despite it being Sunday. But it was the people who emerged from the second vehicle that made my breath catch. Vincent Chen, who I'd spoken to countless times but never met in person. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe 50, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. And with him, an elderly white man who moved with the careful precision of someone well into his 80s, leaning on a polished wooden cane. He was dressed in an expensive suit, his white hair perfectly combed, his blue eyes sharp and assessing. The third vehicle disgorged 2 more lawyers and someone who looked like a financial analyst, all carrying briefcases and tablets. Ms. Hartwell. Adrienne approached the porch. Thank you for meeting with us. This is Vincent Chen, who you've been working with for the past 17 years. And this, she gestured to the elderly man. This is Mr. Harrison Caldwell. He's one of the founding partners of Redwood Capital Partners. I felt my knees go weak. One of the actual owners, here, at my house. Mr. Caldwell, sir, it's an honor. I started to extend my hand, but he was already climbing the porch steps, waving off Adrienne's attempt to help him. Ms. Hartwell, Geneva. May I call you Geneva? He had a voice like old whiskey, smooth and strong. I've been wanting to meet you for 43 years. Vincent here finally gave me a good enough excuse. Yes, sir. Geneva is fine. He looked at me for a long moment, his eyes taking in my bruised cheek, my nervous hands, my uncertain expression. Then he smiled. You probably think we're here to fire you. The thought crossed my mind, sir. Good. That means you understand the seriousness of what happened last night. He gestured to my front door. May we come in? I'm too old to conduct important business standing up. Minutes later, we were all crowded into my living room. Me and Tamika on the couch, Mr. Caldwell in Clarence's old armchair. The others arranged around the room with their briefcases and tablets and serious expressions. Geneva, Mr. Caldwell began. In 1982, my partners and I purchased this property as an investment. We needed someone to manage it who knew the land, who understood ranching, who could make it profitable. We interviewed 17 candidates. Your husband, Clarence, impressed us immediately. The man knew cattle, knew the market, had innovative ideas about sustainable ranching practices. But it was you who sealed the deal. Me, sir? You. In the interview, Clarence kept deferring to you on questions about operations, about logistics, about long-term planning. It was clear you were the strategic mind behind the operation. So we hired you both. Best decision we ever made. He leaned forward. Over the past 43 years, this property has outperformed every projection. You've increased land value by 400% through sustainable practices. You've built relationships with premium buyers that other ranches can't access. You've weathered droughts, market crashes, and a pandemic without a single quarter of losses. You, Geneva Hartwell, are the most valuable asset Redwood Capital Partners has. I couldn't speak, couldn't process what I was hearing. Which is why, he continued, what happened last night made me absolutely furious. My heart sank. Not at you, he clarified quickly. At that fool who put his hands on you, at the situation that forced you to break confidentiality to protect yourself and our property, and at myself and my partners for putting you in that position in the first place. He looked at Adrian, who pulled out a tablet. Geneva, the confidentiality clause made sense in 1982. We were a new investment firm. We had wealthy clients who valued privacy. We thought anonymity would protect our properties and our managers. He shook his head. But times have changed. The world has changed. And frankly, that clause has caused more problems than it's solved. I don't understand, I said softly. We're dissolving the confidentiality requirement, Vincent Chen spoke up. Effective immediately, all 17 of our property managers are being released from their non-disclosure obligations. You can tell whoever you want about the ownership structure. It's not a secret anymore. But more importantly, Mr. Caldwell continued, we're making some changes to your specific situation, changes that are long overdue. He nodded to one of the lawyers, who opened a briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. Geneva, you've given us 43 years of faithful service, 43 years of 12-hour days and weekend work and constant dedication. You've made us collectively tens of millions of dollars. And what have we given you in return? A salary and a house to live in while you work for us. That's more than enough, sir. It's not. His voice was firm. It's not nearly enough. We built wealth on your back, Geneva. You and Clarence. It's time we rectified that. The lawyer handed me the folder. What you're holding is a revised employment contract. The terms are as follows. Your salary is being increased by 40%, retroactive to January 1st of this year. You're being granted full ownership of this house and the 5 acres it sits on. The land and house will be transferred to you, free and clear, within 30 days. I stared at the papers, unable to comprehend the words I was reading. Additionally, the financial analyst spoke up, we're establishing a performance bonus structure. You'll receive 5% of the property's annual net profits, distributed quarterly. Based on last year's numbers, that would have been approximately $280,000. 200? I couldn't finish the sentence. There's more, Vincent Chen said gently. We're also granting you equity participation. You'll receive a 2% ownership stake in the property itself. If the ranch is ever sold, you'll receive 2% of the sale price. At current market value, that's approximately $400,000. But if you continue to manage it as successfully as you have been, that number will only grow. Tamika grabbed my hand and squeezed it so hard it hurt. And finally, Mr. Caldwell said, we're establishing a succession plan. When you decide to retire, and, Geneva, that's your decision, not ours, you'll receive a severance package equal to 3 years' salary. And if you choose to recommend a successor, we'll give that recommendation very serious consideration. He looked at Tamika. Perhaps someone who grew up on this ranch and knows it as well as you do. My daughter's sharp intake of breath was audible. I can't. I looked at all of them, these serious professionals in their expensive suits, sitting in my modest living room making me offers that sounded like fairy tales. Why? Why now? Why any of this? Mr. Caldwell's expression softened. Because last night, when Vincent called to tell me what had happened, I realized something. We created a system that left our most valuable employees vulnerable. We asked you to lie to your own family to protect our privacy. We put you in a position where a con man could manipulate your daughter because she didn't understand the real situation. And when violence occurred as a result, we nearly lost you. He stood up slowly, steadying himself with his cane. I'm 87 years old, Geneva. I've made a lot of money in my life. But I've learned that wealth means nothing if you don't use it to make things right. Consider this making things right. I felt tears rolling down my cheeks, the first tears I'd allowed myself since last night. Thank you, sir. I don't have words. The papers need to be signed and notarized, which we can do now if you're ready. Or you can take time, have your own lawyer review everything. I'll sign now, I heard myself say. I trust you. Before you do, Adrienne interjected, there's one more thing you should know. We filed assault charges against Darius Wellington this morning. Given the video evidence and witness statements, the district attorney is taking the case very seriously. We're also pursuing a civil suit for attempted theft and fraud. Our legal team is quite good, Geneva. Mr. Wellington is going to face consequences for what he did. They're going to make sure he never tries something like this with anyone else, Tamika said quietly. Right? That's exactly right, Adrienne confirmed. We protect our people, Ms. Wellington. We should have made that more clear a long time ago. The signing took an hour. Papers and more papers, explanations and clarifications, notarizations and signatures. When it was done, I owned my house. I had a contract that would make me financially secure for the rest of my life, and I had the respect of people I'd been working for in secret for 4 decades. As they were packing up to leave, Mr. Caldwell paused at the door. Geneva, one last thing. That young man last night, your grandson? Caleb, sir. He moved to protect you without hesitation. That kind of loyalty, that kind of love for family. That's rare. If he ever needs anything, college recommendations, internships, opportunities, you call Vincent. We take care of our extended family, too. After they left, Tamika and I sat on the porch and watched the dust settle from their departure. Mama, she finally said, you own this house. You actually own it. I do. I looked out at the land I'd worked for so long, the fences and fields and barns that had been my whole life. I really do. And they're paying you how much? More than I ever dreamed, baby. More than enough. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun start its descent toward the horizon. Then Tamika spoke again. I filed for an annulment this morning, while you were getting ready for the meeting, called a lawyer, started the paperwork. The marriage can be dissolved because of fraud. He married me under false pretenses. I'm sorry, baby, I know you loved him. I loved who I thought he was. She wiped her eyes. But Mama, I'm glad this happened before we had kids. Before I wasted more years. And I'm glad... She paused. I'm glad I finally know the truth. About everything. About the ranch. About you and Daddy. About what you sacrificed. I'm proud of you, Mama. I don't think I ever really understood how hard you worked until now. I pulled her close. Your daddy and I did what we had to do. And we'd do it again, baby. You were always worth it. My phone buzzed. A text from Odetta. Girl, the whole church is talking about last night. You good? Need anything? Also, Harrison Caldwell was at your house? Geneva Elizabeth Hartwell, you've got some explaining to do. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in 24 hours. What is it? Tamika asked. Just Odetta, wanting the full story. Looks like I'm going to be doing a lot of explaining. At least you can tell the truth now. Yeah. I looked out at my land, the 5 acres that were truly mine now, and the hundreds more that I managed with pride. Yeah, I can finally tell the truth. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. The video of Darius slapping me had gone viral overnight. The story of the secret ranch ownership, the mysterious consortium, the dramatic confrontation, it was everywhere. Local news, regional news, even a mention on CNN. By Tuesday, 3 documentary crews had contacted Adrienne about doing stories on Redwood Capital Partners and their property managers. By Wednesday, Darius had been formally charged with assault and was being investigated for attempted fraud. And by Friday, when I went to my church's women's fellowship, I was treated like a celebrity. Geneva Hartwell, sitting on secrets for 40 years. Sister Morrison shook her head. Girl, you had all of us fooled. Just doing my job, I said mildly. Well, your job just made you half a millionaire from what I hear, Odetta Stage whispered. So when are you taking us all to dinner? I laughed. Soon, I promise. Pastor Williams pulled me aside after the meeting. Geneva, I just want you to know, we're proud of you. The way you've conducted yourself through all this, with such dignity and grace, you're an example to us all. Thank you, Pastor. That means a lot. And that young man who hurt you? He's been asked not to return to this church. We don't tolerate violence against women, especially not our elders. I nodded, grateful for my church family's support. A month later, the house papers were finalized. The deed with my name on it arrived by courier, official and legal and real. Geneva Elizabeth Hartwell, sole owner of a beautiful ranch house and 5 acres of Texas land. Caleb helped me frame it and hang it in the living room. Grandma, you're like famous now, he said, standing back to admire our work. Kids at school keep asking me about you, about the secret ranch and the company and everything. What do you tell them? I tell them my grandma is the toughest woman in Texas, and anybody who messes with her is going to regret it. He grinned. Then I show them the video of Mom slapping that fool. Caleb! What? Mom said I could. She's proud of that slap. I shook my head, but I was smiling. Tamika was doing better. She'd moved back home temporarily, was going to therapy, was rebuilding. The annulment was proceeding smoothly. Darius's lawyer had advised him not to contest it, probably because contesting it would mean more public attention to his crimes. The assault case was scheduled for trial in 3 months, but Adrienne was confident he'd take a plea deal. The civil suit was already settled. Darius had paid a substantial amount to Redwood Capital Partners to make it go away. Some of that money, Adrienne had told me, would be used to establish a fund for other women who'd been victimized by domestic violence. Making things right, Mr. Caldwell had said. And he was. They all were. 6 months after that terrible wedding night, I sat on my porch, on my land, and watched the sunset paint the sky orange and pink and gold. The ranch was thriving. My bank account was healthy. My daughter was healing. My grandson was thriving. My community surrounded me with love. And I was free. Free from secrets, free from fear, free from the weight of lies I'd carried for 43 years. Clarence would have been proud. I pulled out my phone and took a picture of the sunset, then sent it to the family group chat Caleb had created. Hartwell strong. Tamika responded immediately. Beautiful, Mama. Love you. Caleb. Grandma's getting fancy with the photos. Leonard. That's my sister, living her best life. Proud of you, sis. I smiled and tucked the phone away. Tomorrow I'd wake up early and check on the cattle. I'd meet with the Whole Foods rep about expanding our contract. I'd call Vincent about those new solar panels he'd suggested. I'd live my life the way I'd always lived it, with purpose and dignity and pride. But now, I'd do it as an owner, as someone with equity and value and a stake in my own future, as Geneva Elizabeth Hartwell, property manager and landowner and survivor. And that, I thought as the last rays of sunlight faded from the sky, was more than enough. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.